Hi, I'm going to talk about buffers again today. Um, you have to excuse me because some of the notes I've taken uh, come about by my waking up or lying in the middle of the night and suddenly thinking, oh, I've got to get up and write this one down. Uh, so if there's a bit disjointedness, please excuse me. So from notes about buffers. First one is the biggest thing we buffer is our inability to remain present. It's so effectively buffered that we believe ourselves to be fully conscious all the time. But current brain science and neuroscience says we are only conscious for a very small percentage of each day. This buffering is orchestrated by the reptile brain, which uses other parts to fill in the gaps in our awareness, passing from one to another seamlessly. In the same way, because we have one body, we think of ourselves as one person, but we go often from personality to personality throughout the day, prompted by the circumstances we're in. And also our addictions are forms of buffers too. We play many roles, but they can also be thought of as buffers to our real self. In a sense, we also buffer our real nature, which is miraculous. But we constantly think of ourselves on a more normal level. We avoid intensity and push suffering away, trying to escape it. It becomes buffered or hidden from us. Ask yourself, what are your favourite buffers? Perhaps I should just go over buffers a bit again. Gurdjieff, the amazing teacher, he described buffers as being like the protective devices between the different carriages on a train, which prevent them from breaking into each other. So if we put the brakes on without the buffers, the carriages would crash into one another. The buffers are the devices between the compartments that prevent them from crashing into one another, or in our case, from us seeing one side of ourselves, then another side of ourselves at the same time. Because often these different parts of us are completely contradictory. So, en avant. When first presented with the idea of buffers, that's all I could see. We can buffer our emptiness by constantly playing music. Music's everywhere these days, and it's one method whereby people can avoid the feeling of emptiness, the silence. People often get very embarrassed when they're sitting together by some of their own feelings and their inability to converse. And music helps to fill in this gap by buffering it. We buffer being able to sustain presence. There's a funny one, catch-22. The buffer presents itself. The thing we use to buffer most often actually will buffer itself using itself. Say, for example, we want to stop drinking. Then the reptile brain will actually produce that very thing as being something it wants to do in order to avoid seeing that it's having difficulty stopping drinking. Very convoluted, I know. Buffers, like a closed circle. I don't know how Pinocchio got in here, but we lie to ourselves all day through, and in Pinocchio's case, also Pinocchio, if you break it down, when I learned Spanish, I suddenly realized that Pinocchio is like pine eye, the pineal eye. And when he was a wooden boy who wanted to become real, which is the process of awakening, is trying to become real. And when he lied, his nose got bigger. Again, one hides our true miraculous nature under the illusion of everydayness. Humour is often a buffer, which is very nice in a lot of situations. It eases the tension between people. Each of us have a primary mechanism which we have as an aspect of our endocrine type, our body type. And this itself is a huge buffer too. For example, someone who has the chief feature or mechanism of wanting to control other people will, whenever they're in an uncertain situation, try to make other people do things. If you can think of being at a party, for example, or a get-together, because they feel insecure, they will then try to make others do something they want them to do, and they'll feel more comfortable in themselves in that role. Fiendish intelligence. That would be the instinctive brain I was thinking about. You must excuse me, sometimes when I look at these notes the next day, I'm like, what was I thinking? Anyway, to buffer the inability to control an aspect of behaviour with the very thing one's trying to diminish. Catch 22. Oh, that was a bit about the one previously. Again, buffers are protective distancing devices. They distance us from areas of our being that we can't accept. People buffer their lack of presence. Meat preparation buffers where it actually comes from. Basically, meat is the muscles of another living creature, but we treat it in all different kinds of ways in order to make it appear something else, when in fact it's a bit of dead animal sliced up. Anything other than self-remembering is a buffer, as it distances us from self-remembering. We can push suffering away and try to escape it. It thereby becomes buffered or hidden. By accepting it, one can become objective to it and thereby see it. If one is serious about awakening, one has to see what are our favourite buffers. And we buffer our awesomeness. So that was a little bit more about buffers, and I hope you were able to follow it. next time. Bye bye.